What if I told you that some of reggae's music stars died in poverty? From Junior Biles, who battled illness, scavenged for food in garbage bins, and begged for money, to Val Bennett, who died in an almshouse after giving so much to the music. Here are 10 reggae music stars who died in poverty. Val Bennett. Val Bennett was a famous Jamaican tenor saxophone player whose music career started back in the 1940s. He played an important role in the growth of reggae music. Over many years, he worked with some of the most important artists and producers in Jamaica. Early on, Bennett led his own band called the Val Bennett Orchestra. This band gave some now famous musicians their first real chance to play professionally, including Jerry Haynes, Lloyd Knibb, and Ernest Ranglin. The band often played at the Colony Club in Jamaica, where many foreign visitors came to listen. They also toured other countries like Haiti, where they learned new musical styles like meringue. In the 1960s, Val Bennett joined Prince Buster's band and played on many of Prince Buster's famous songs, including the hit Al Capone. He was also a popular session musician, meaning many artists asked him to play on their records. Some of these artists were Theophilus Beckford, Pat Kelly, Barrington Levy, and Delroy Wilson. Bennett was very talented and could play several instruments, not just the saxophone, but also the horn and trombone. Val Bennett made some great songs of his own, too. One of his best-known tracks was The Russians Are Coming from 1968, which was a cover of Dave Brubeck's Take 5. This song later became the theme music for a British TV show called The Secret Life of Machines in the late 1980s. He also played on Tons of Gold in 1970 with the Harry J. All-Stars, which was a version of the famous track The Liquidator. He worked with producer Lee Scratch Perry on the hit Return of Django in 1969, and his song Baby Baby appeared on the Upsetters album Eastwood Rides Again. Even though Val Bennett helped shape reggae music and played with many top artists, his later years were hard. He struggled with money and did not have much to live on. When he died in 1991, he was living in an almshouse in Jamaica. Almshouses are places where poor and elderly people live when they have nowhere else to go. He passed away from diabetes, a disease that can be serious without proper care. Junior Biles. Junior Biles was born in Jamaica and became famous as a conscious roots reggae singer. In 1967, he started a singing group called The Versatiles with Dudley Earl and Ben Lewis Davis. At the same time, Biles worked as a firefighter. The group got signed to a music label and worked with famous producers like Lee Scratch Perry and Duke Reed. But by 1970, the Versatiles split up. Even after the group ended, Biles kept his firefighting job and continued to make music, sometimes with the other group members singing backup. In 1972, Biles had a big hit with a cover of Peggy Lee's song Fever, produced by Perry. That same year, his first album, Beat Down Babylon, came out. It made him well known in Jamaica and the UK. One of his songs, Curly Locks, was especially popular in the UK. By the mid-1970s, Biles stopped working with Perry and started recording for other producers. He also made some duets with Rupert Reed. One of his most loved songs, Fade Away, came out in 1975 and became a huge hit in Jamaica and the UK. It was even part of the soundtrack for the movie Rockers. But then, things began to go wrong for Junior Biles. His mental health started to decline. The death of Haile Selassie, whom he deeply respected and believed in, hit him very hard. He fell into deep depression and, at one point, even tried to take his own life. Biles was admitted to Bellevue Hospital. Though he still made some music during this time, by the end of 1976, he had almost vanished from the music scene. He tried to come back in 1978 with a few new songs, but it was clear his health was still failing. In 1982, he recorded new music with a label in New York City, but life kept getting harder. His mother died and his house burned down. His wife and children moved to the United States, leaving Biles all alone. By the mid-1980s, Junior Biles was living on the streets. He scavenged for food in garbage bins and begged for money. His health was getting worse, and the music world had almost forgotten him. Though he recorded a few songs and played some shows in the late 1980s and 1990s, his life was filled with struggle and poverty. He managed a brief return to performing in 2004, but his battles with mental illness and poor health never really ended. In the late 2000s and 10s, people again grew worried about him, when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. His importance as a reggae artist started to be recognized again, and in 2019, a concert was held to celebrate his life and music. In 2020, dancehall star Bounty Killers Charity gave Junior a large donation, which helped with his medical bills. Sadly, Junior Biles died in May 2025. His final years were marked by illness and hardship. Apple Gabriel. Albert Craig, popularly known as Apple Gabriel, was once a shining light in reggae music. Born in Jamaica, he battled polio from a young age, just like his future bandmates in the legendary group Israel Vibration. His childhood was marked by pain and struggle. His grandfather's death tore his family apart as they fought over land worth millions. Apple said his mother was cheated out of her share and fell into depression after losing both the land and her business. To make things worse, Apple's father disowned him at just 6 years old, unable to accept that his son was disabled. Despite all that pain, music became Apple's escape. While living in children's homes and attending school, he taught himself piano by watching his teacher. He wrote his first song when he was only 10, for a girl he had a crush on. In the 1970s, Apple formed Israel Vibration with Cecil Skelly Spence and Lascelles Wiss Bulgin. They met as children at the Mona Rehabilitation Center while being treated for polio. United by both music and hardship, the trio created powerful roots reggae that spoke to people around the world. Their breakthrough came with The Same Song, and before long, they were touring Europe, North America, and South America. Israel Vibration was loved everywhere they went. But just as things were going well, the bond between the members started to break. Apple claimed that their manager, Dr. Dredd, divided the group and stole money from them, money from shows, merchandise, and record sales. According to Apple, he never quit the group. Instead, he was quietly pushed out when Dr. Dredd sent the other two members on tour without telling him. He found out from a friend in Germany who was shocked to see Israel Vibration performing as a duo. Apple tried to move on with a solo career. He released a few albums and kept making music from his small home studio in Atlanta. He once said, "I never stop writing. I'm the fountain of music I can't dry up." But behind those words was a man still struggling. His career never fully recovered. He lost one of his children. He had no investor, no label support, and the spotlight that once followed him had moved on. In his final years, Apple Gabriel was sick and broke. He died in poverty, far from the stages where he once sang songs of hope and healing to thousands. Don Drummond. Don Drummond was born in Kingston in 1934 and was a very talented trombone player and composer. He learned music at the Alpha Boys School, where he built the skills that made him stand out. In the 1950s, he played jazz with Eric Dean's All-Stars and quickly became known as the best trombonist in Jamaica. In 1954, he even won an award for Best Trombonist. His talent was noticed beyond Jamaica too. Famous jazz pianist George Shearing once said Don Drummond was one of the top 5 trombone players in the world. When ska music started to grow in the early 1960s, Drummond joined the Skatalites in 1964. This was an important moment for Jamaican music. He helped create ska, which later became the foundation for reggae and dancehall music. His songs like Eastern Standard Time, Schooling the Duke, and Confucius became favorites. His work with the Skatalites made ska famous around the world and inspired many artists who came after him. But despite all his talent and success, Don Drummond's life took a very dark turn. He struggled with mental illness and problems with drugs. Because of his health, he spent many times and most of his money in Bellevue Mental Hospital, which made it hard for him to keep playing music. Then, in January 1965, a terrible thing happened. Drummond stabbed his girlfriend, Anita Mahfood, who was a famous dancer. Drummond said she had stabbed herself, but in 1966, the court found him guilty of her death. The court also said he was not mentally well, so instead of going to jail, he was sent to Bellevue Asylum for the rest of his life. For the years he lived in the asylum, Drummond lived with almost nothing. His life was very hard. He was ruled criminally insane and stayed locked away in Bellevue Asylum in Kingston until he died 4 years later. The official cause of his death was natural causes, but it was likely heart failure caused by poor health, malnutrition, or bad medication. Don Drummond died in poverty, forgotten by many, even though he was one of Jamaica's greatest musicians. Desmond Decker. Desmond Decker was one of the first reggae stars to take Jamaican music all over the world. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, he started out like many young dreamers, just trying to get a chance. He auditioned for a record label in 1961, singing a song he had written himself. But it wasn't until 2 years later that the label finally released his first track, Honor Your Mother and Father. That song became a big hit in Jamaica and kicked off what would become a groundbreaking music career. Desmond soon became a household name. Songs like Sinners Come Home and Labor for Learning followed, and by the time he released Israelites in 1968, he wasn't just big in Jamaica, he was global. Israelites topped the UK charts and broke into the top 10 in the US. It was the first time a song with that raw, purely Jamaican sound had reached such heights. Desmond Decker had done what no other reggae artist had done before. He opened the door for generations to come. But while his music inspired millions, life behind the scenes wasn't as smooth. In the 1980s, Decker signed with Stiff Records and tried to reinvent himself during the ska revival. He released Black & Decker with help from British musicians, and even re-recorded some of his old hits like Israelites and Many Rivers to Cross. But the music wasn't selling like it used to. His name still carried weight, and he continued performing live, but the money wasn't following him the way it did in the past. In 1984, Desmond Decker was officially declared bankrupt. The same man who once topped charts in both the UK and US was now broke. In the late 80s, he barely released any new music. One of his biggest songs, Israelites, only gained attention again when it was used in a TV commercial in 1990. It gave him a bit of a boost, but not enough to bring him back to the top. He tried to keep going. In 1993, he teamed up with the Specials to release the album King of Kings, paying tribute to the artists who came before him. And he even did a remix of Israelites with Apache Indian, but it wasn't enough to rebuild what he once had. Desmond Decker, the man who once put reggae on the global stage, spent his final years far from the spotlight. He had just quiet shows, small crowds, and a legacy the world seemed to forget. He died of a heart attack in 2006 at his home in London. He was 64. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Majek Fashek. Majek Fashek was a Nigerian reggae singer, songwriter, and guitarist. In the late 1980s, he became a household name across Nigeria after the release of Send Down the Rain. The song came out during a harsh drought, and not long after, rain started falling. People believed the song had spiritual power, and it turned Majek into a legend. His sound, mixing reggae, rock, and African rhythms, was different and powerful. It didn't take long for his music to reach the international stage. He worked with famous musicians around the world and was seen as one of Africa's brightest musical stars. But behind the fame, Majek was fighting a dangerous battle. Whispers began to spread about his drug use. As his popularity grew, his problems became harder to hide. The rumors were sadly true. He had fallen into substance addiction. During a time when he should have been doing his best work, his life started crumbling. By the 2010s, it was clear how badly the addiction had hurt him. In 2015, it was revealed that Majek was bankrupt and heavily addicted to drugs. He was no longer the strong, exciting performer fans once knew. He looked weak, confused, and dirty. To save him from ending up homeless, he was taken to a rehabilitation center in Abuja. But even after this, recovery was hard. Though he said he wanted help, he often refused to fully face the truth about how serious things were. His addiction was not just a problem people talked about. It deeply affected his life and those around him. His wife, old friends, and even his manager spoke out about how he would sometimes be clean and hopeful, then suddenly fall back into addiction. It became a sad cycle. Every time it looked like he was recovering, he would relapse. Most attempts to help him failed, simply because Majek kept denying how bad things had gotten. His music career suffered more and more. He missed concerts, stopped releasing music regularly, and sometimes acted strangely in public. When he did perform, it was painful to watch. His voice was still there, but his energy was gone. He would stumble on stage or appear confused. His fans were heartbroken. They remembered the strong man who once controlled crowds, not the broken figure before them. In 2019, there was a spark of hope when billionaire Femi Otedola stepped in. Otedola offered to pay all of Majek's hospital bills after the musician was admitted to Queen Elizabeth Hospitals in England. His manager, Uzoma Omenka, thanked the businessman and said it was a huge relief, but he also made it clear that they still needed more help. He said, "We still need thousands of pounds for feeding, transportation, and other expenses. Majek is not dead, but he is very sick and we are stranded." This statement revealed how bad things were for Majek. Majek Fashek, the Rainmaker, was no longer remembered for his talent alone. A man who once filled stadiums and brought rain with his voice was now helpless, broke, and barely surviving. His legend faded under the weight of addiction, poverty, and sickness. Sadly, Fashek died in his sleep on the 1st of June 2020 in New York City. He was 57 and was battling esophageal cancer. Yabiu. Yabiu was a reggae singer and producer who carved out a place for himself with a sound that was unlike anyone else's. Born in the Waterhouse area of Kingston, Jamaica, he was one of 7 children in a poor household. From early on, life was a constant struggle. At just 12 years old, Yabi had to leave home and find work to support himself. He ended up taking a job at a furnace in Waterhouse, doing hard labor to survive. But at age 17, things became even more worse. He became severely malnourished and landed in the hospital. His health never fully recovered. He developed arthritis, which damaged his legs so badly he could no longer walk properly. His body never allowed him to return to that kind of hard work again. With nowhere else to go, Yabi began hustling on the streets of Kingston. Life was painful, but he was spiritually strong. Unlike most of his Rastafarian peers who believed in Haile Selassie as a god, Yabiu followed the teachings of Jesus Christ. That made him stand out and sometimes made him a target. People mocked him and called him Jesus Dread, but he didn't mind. He held on to his beliefs. One day, after arguing with someone about religion, he said he heard a strange sound deep in his mind. He said the voice was like an angel a-sing. That mysterious moment pushed him toward music. In 1972, after years of pain and poverty, Yabi finally made it to a recording studio. His first single, Conquering Lion, came out under the name Vivian Jackson and the Ralph Brothers. It was produced by the legendary King Tubby. The haunting intro chant, "Be you, Yabi Yabi you," stuck with people and gave him his stage name. The song became popular in Jamaica, and Yabiu was finally seen as an artist to watch. Though his legs were damaged and he often moved with crutches, he kept recording, producing, and performing throughout the 1970s and 1980s. His music career was characterized by self-produced work and collaborations with other artists, including King Tubby, Michael Prophet, and Big Youth. However, his financial situation remained worse, and he often struggled to find the funds necessary for recording. But as the years went by, life didn't get easier. Though he was respected in music circles, Yabi struggled financially. He slowed down in the 1980s, but made a quiet comeback in the 1990s, releasing new songs and re-releasing old ones. In 2000, he put out a remix album with Glenn Brown, featuring new versions of Conquering Lion. Still, even with these releases, he didn't get enough money for himself. He lived humbly, still in the same rough Kingston neighborhood, surrounded by the same hardships. While others made millions, Yabi barely made enough to get by. He was known for standing firm in his faith and for living simply, but those close to him knew he often went without. Yabi, you died of a stroke in 2010 at the age of 63. His death reminded many of the quiet suffering he had endured for most of his life. His music carried deep spiritual messages and raw honesty, but he never got rich from it. He had helped build reggae from the ground up, yet in the end, he passed away, poor. Johnny Ringo. Johnny Ringo's journey into music started with him, working at a record shop in Kingston, Jamaica. It was there he met Welton Erie, a fellow artist who would become a lifelong friend. In those early years, Ringo sharpened his skills on sound systems like Soul Express and Ripatone. He learned how to connect with crowds, how to ride a rhythm, and how to bring his lyrics to life. Not long after, he released his first single, Trouble Never Set Like Rain. The song caught some attention, and people began to notice his talent. He quickly built a name for himself in Jamaica with songs like Two Lesbians and Push Lady Push. Then came 1982, the year that changed everything. His song Dub and Lef became a hit overseas, and suddenly Johnny Ringo wasn't just a local name, he was an international dancehall star. Back home in Jamaica, songs like Pain Aback, Nah, Fight Over Woman, and Married for the Opportunity kept him on top. His style, full of wit and confidence, made him one of the defining voices in early dancehall. By the mid-1980s, Ringo had cemented his place in the music world. He toured with sound systems like Lee's Unlimited and Ray Symbolic's Hi-Fi, sharing stages across the globe with Squidly Ranking and Welton Iroy. He helped carry Jamaican dancehall to the world. His work with producers like Sugar Minott added to his growing reputation. But behind the music, Johnny Ringo was fighting a battle that fans didn't always see. He was struggling with substance addiction, and it was slowly pulling him under. Though he kept recording into the early 1990s, his health was fading, and the addiction was taking a toll. He began missing sessions, losing focus, and burning through all the money he had earned. His energy on the mic dimmed. From 1985 until his death, he didn't even release 2 full albums. Ringo's addiction didn't just hurt his career, it destroyed his body. Without enough money left to take care of his health, he suffered in silence. On July 1st, 2005, Johnny Ringo died in Kingston after a long and painful battle with substance abuse. Iroy. Iroy was a Jamaican DJ who became one of the biggest names in reggae during the 1970s. Known for his clever and often funny lyrics, he liked to mix in jokes, nursery rhymes, and even bits of popular songs into his music. His unique style helped him stand out, and songs like Buck and the Preacher and Monkey Fashion became big hits. After the success of his second album, Hell and Sorrow, he moved to the UK to promote his third album, The Many Moods of Iroy. There, he performed regularly at the Roaring Twenties Club with Sir Coxsone's sound system and even played live shows with the band Matumbi. Eventually, Iroy moved back to Jamaica. At that time, reggae was changing and DJ records were starting to lose popularity. Still, he stayed involved in music and worked as a house producer at Channel One Studios. But even though he did a lot of the work, the credit mostly went to the studio owners. In 1975, Iroy bounced back. He released new songs through Channel One and later teamed up with producer Bunny Lee. This would turn out to be one of the best times in his career. Around the same time, he started a friendly rivalry with another DJ named Prince Jazzbo. The two traded playful insults on their songs, starting with Iroy's straight to Jazzbo's head. But off the mic, they were good friends. That same year, Iroy signed with Virgin Records. The label released 8 of his albums, backed by the legendary band The Revolutionaries. He also kept releasing music in Jamaica, including a best-of album produced by Alvin Ranglin. For a while, Iroy was everywhere, on the radio, on stage, and in the hearts of reggae fans. But in the 1980s, everything started to change. Reggae was shifting into a new sound called dancehall, and Iroy's style began to feel old to younger listeners. His music wasn't selling like it used to, and his health started to go downhill. With fewer shows, less money, and mounting health problems, life got very hard. He tried to stay in the game. In the early 1990s, he started building his own studio in Spanish Town, hoping for a comeback. But he ran out of money before it was finished. His dreams faded, and so did his fame. He spent his final years broke, with no steady income, and at times, he had nowhere to live. In 1999, tragedy struck when one of his sons was killed in prison. Just a month later, on November 27, 1999, Iroy died of heart failure in a hospital in Spanish Town. He was only 55 years old. Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor was a Jamaican singer known for mixing roots reggae, lovers rock, and songs with strong social messages. Tyrone started making music at a very young age. He recorded his first song with Joe Gibbs when he was only 12 years old. Even though things were not always easy, he kept going with help from friends like guitarist Willie Lindo and producers such as Jack Ruby and 90 the Observer. In the 1970s, Tyrone released songs that talked about the problems people faced in Jamaica. Songs like Don't Call Me Nigga and Sufferation spoke about political and social struggles. But it was in 1983 that he became famous for the Lovers' rock hit, Cottage in Negril. This song, which was a loving tribute to the resort town of Negril, showed off his powerful voice and great songwriting. It became a hit, especially in Europe, and made him one of the top reggae singers of that year. Even though dancehall music was very popular then, Tyrone's softer style stood out and earned him the title Best-Selling Singer of 1983. After that, he released a song called Come to Me, but it didn't become as popular. Still, MCA Records signed him, hoping to build on his success. He released another song, Pledge to the Sun, but it didn't catch on. Sadly, many other songs he recorded were never released. He went on a tour in Europe, but the record company didn't support him well. Feeling let down, Tyrone left the label early. Though he had a bright start, Tyrone's career struggled because of his battle with substance abuse. His friends said his addiction stopped him from reaching his full potential. Later in life, Tyrone spoke openly about his addiction, explaining how it damaged his health, his music career, and left him in financial problems. Because of these struggles, he released only a few songs after the 1980s, like Members Only in 1987 and Rainy Sunset in 1994. In his later years, he suffered 2 strokes and had to use a wheelchair. This was very different from the lively performer he used to be. His health kept getting worse, and in 2007, Tyrone died from prostate cancer at the young age of 50, with nothing to show for. His struggles with addiction and poor health stopped him from living the life and career he once dreamed of. What do you think about these music stars who died in poverty? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.